I'm Soni Lloyd. I've been teaching for 17 years in LAUSD. I teach at Venice High School. This is my 11th year over there. Okay, great. I teach AP Government and U.S. History most years, and I'm the chapter chair there as well. And I used to coach track there and football, but I gave that up to get more involved in union stuff. I've been active in the union ever since my career began at Hale Middle School in the Valley. You know, I'm a history teacher, so labor history is very important to me. I realize that's how we have a decent standard of living in this country, is the labor movement coming, starting way back in the, Gilded Age, and that's what I'm teaching right now. So, my platform sort of began to develop. After the strike, I was sort of disappointed in the results and the rushed vote, right? We had a big argument over there at Venice on, how come we didn't really have time to read it. So, I got to thinking over the summer about forming a new caucus, right? So union power, are you guys all familiar with union power? Right, and I used to work with union power, but I started to have sort of disagreements with where they were going, their strategy, their methods. So this summer I started a caucus of rank and file educators in Los Angeles. And it's meant to be a UTLA caucus to sort of bring a new perspective in, to bring a contest of ideas into the union. Because right now, union power, their slate pretty much dominates, the board of directors, the House of Reps, the 7 officers, they're all from one organization. They meet, on their own time outside of the union structure, and they develop all the strategy, and then they, apply their ideas. And, I feel like if you question, I used to be with union power, but if you question too much, you sort of get, marginalized in the organization. So I started something new, and the people I met with, they decided, well, let's put together a slate and let's run some people, at least to, keep them accountable. And, they just don't feel like they're entitled to those seats. None of the union power slate, none of them have been in the classroom for a long time, right? Cecily and Alex have been out for 6 years. Arlene and Juan, they're going for their 4th terms, yeah. Right? So they've been out of the classroom over 12 years, and I feel that's not really good for us as classroom teachers to have leaders that are, they haven't been in our day-to-day struggle in so long, and they can start to get involved in other things on our time, like this Bernie Sanders endorsement. We had a lot of meetings about that, and really the contract hadn't even been printed up. We hadn't been fully educated on that, but we're talking about a presidential election that really doesn't have a lot to do with our day-to-day, grind. So some of my ideas, first, a contract, right? I call it a true teacher's contract. And if there's one issue I would say I've been really active around is the, cost of living adjustment that, a lot of professions get every year. And even Bernie Sanders, if you were at the leadership conference, he did say all teachers should get a cost of living adjustment every year. He said every teacher should make $60,000 to start in this country with the cost of living adjustment. So I wrote a motion recently that passed in Central Area calling for a cost of living adjustment. It passed 50-0. It called for an 11% raise tied to a permanent cost of living adjustment. And now it is with the negotiations team who is, doing the reopener on our salary. So I'm asking people to, be active around that demand for a COLA, because without the COLA, we backslide in our standard of living, right? We go 3-4 years with nothing, and then we fight for what we think is a raise, but it's just really getting us back to where we were.
Can I ask a question off the COLA? I thought the COLA was given by the state, and the district decides not to pass it on.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. So that is true. So the district gets it from the state, but doesn't pass it on.
Not to us. They say if they pass it on automatically to us, then there's other things they can't spend the money on. which I don't really buy because it's a percentage of our budget. It's sort of, the state is saying, yes, everything is going to be more expensive next year. We're going to give you money to account for that, but they decide to do other things with that
The
money.
district decides.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that.
Well, I don't think they really want to motivate teachers, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm just really confused about what is your plan on how to get the money from them, even though they do get it, they'll pass it on to us?
Put it in our contract. So they have a reopener right now on our salary. They're negotiating language on our salary. So I passed a motion that that be a demand that gets put into our contract.
Do we get to sign the reopener, like vote on the reopeners? Or is it something that the president of UTLA, they kind of make that decision? In other words,
Well,
it'd be a UTLA
they
decision.
negotiate for it, but eventually, yeah, it's just like the contract, we get to vote on that. Whatever agreement comes out of the reopeners, we get to vote on that. So, aside from salary, you know, workload, I think is a big problem in this district. Our class sizes, you know, they could be a lot better. How are you guys feeling on class size at Webster?
We're really good, but only because we have the SIG grant, the federal grant. So when that goes away after next year, we'll be hit like everyone else.
But it's also because we have 7 periods instead of 6.
That helps too.
Okay, so,
We have artificially low,
Right.
we're artificially low.
well, that's good. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, I mean, we have probably the same number of students we would have had otherwise, like a big number, but because we're breaking it into 7 periods instead of 6 periods, each period has a lower number of students per class. But at the end of the day, you know, you're taking, let's say, 200 students and splitting them up into 7 periods rather than 6 periods.
But we're only able to do that because we get the extra teachers through the city. So when we lose that money, then.
So then why are we holding on to 7 periods? When so many people are burned out by it? Because I thought it was because of that. I didn't know it was a sick. But anyway, that's another conversation.
Well, if you look at the contract, the new contract and the old contract, the class sizes are exactly the same. It hasn't changed one bit. The only thing that's changed is, you know, 1.5 is removed, and so now, you know, 1 student per class. And in 4 years, we'll be back to what the contract was in 2014. Right. So, yeah. Look at the 2 contracts. I have both of them. And put the class sizes side by side. There wasn't one change. Right.
Why did the paper that we got seem like, remember the paper that we were given at the end of the strike? They said you know, next school year, you can have this many students in each class versus what we have now. It was a comparison, and it seemed like we were gonna be less, and then each year progressively lower and lower.
That's what it is.
So, why is it?
So it's getting lower and lower, it's not.
Well, it went.
It isn't, I don't.
We had an agreement in 2014, and every year the district said, we can't hold to that agreement. We're going to raise the class sizes. They've done that the last 6 years. They've raised the class sizes basically through the 1.5 loophole. So what should be, let's say, 39 in secondary where I teach 11 and 12, it's 45. Or it got up to 46. So the contract said 39, but it got up to 46 because they had that 1.5 loophole. Now it's coming back, this year it's back down to 45, and it's going to go to 44, and then 2, I think it's going to go to 42, and then at some point it's supposed to get back down to 39. But it's going to take,
What it was a few years ago.
yeah. But my thing is, we really need to fight a lot harder to get it, you know, to really reduce class size in our contract below what we had in 2014.
Strike and people are really struggling. How do we do that?
Vote for me. Vote.
How are you going to do that then?
You know, I think we ended the strike prematurely, right? The other states went out 3-4 weeks, France right now, they've been on strike for 6 weeks. So to me, those are real strikes. You're going to stay out until you get what you want. It would have required the district hiring 2,000 teachers to actually go back down below the last contract. They would not commit to hiring 2,000 teachers. How many new teachers did you guys get here at Webster this year?
One.
You got one new teacher.
We're hiring 2 more teachers.
Again, our situation doesn't apply.
It doesn't
because of-
apply.
Right.
Well, I can tell you at Venice,
In
we
a
didn't.
year it'll apply.
We didn't get any new teachers, right? And so what's happened is they've shifted a lot of the kids around into like electives and things. Just they've shifted the numbers instead of actually bringing on new teachers. We were supposed to be entitled to a new teacher, but our principal, he had a shortfall in the budget from last year, and he used the money to make up for that, right? So, you know, increasing staffing, I believe, you know, we have to have an agreement where we actually bring new people on, right? And we didn't really get that too much.
I have because the bell's gonna ring in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And however you wanna address it, one of my biggest concerns is right now our union feels very, very fractured.
Mhm.
Elementary and, social workers, school psych, like, they're pissed. You see how pissed they all are.
Yeah.
So I wanna know how, because if we're fractured like this, and people tend to on social media be very public about our disagreements, and I'm very concerned at that direction that we're taking. And so I wanna know, how you can do that. And then for us in particular, we have 2 charters on our campus, and we have Nick Melvoin and Citizens of the World, and they don't follow rules and they play dirty. And LD West patronizes us and lies, and I wanna know if you have thoughts for schools that are co-located beyond just the TAP committee, some more heavier tactics when we know that they're not playing by rules.
Well, okay, first on common ground, and uniting the union, I believe there's definitely things that unite us, right? No matter if we're elementary, secondary, it's our work conditions, it's our workload, it's our work day. And just bringing people around those common themes and fighting for improvements, right? We have a constitution. I brought the UTLA Constitution. It's got, you know, the preamble. And I think if we stick to those points, right, fighting for the best salary scale, fighting for the best working conditions, healthcare, and, you know, developing the profession. I think, you know, I had a workshop actually at UTLA around our Constitution and around how UTLA is organized, just to teach people about our structures. So, you know, focusing on those things that unite us all and not really the things that divide us. I think like the Bernie Sanders things, I was kind of divisive, right? It was,
Backing him up as a union?
yeah.
What are you referring to?
Well, going through the process, there was meetings about it, there was a lot of debates about it, and it kind of took attention away from, you know, the co-locations, what you're dealing with, right? Let's meet and let's talk about that. How to, you know, I've written a petition to recall Melvoin. I'm
Yeah, when
trying.
are we gonna do that? When are we gonna see that? I wanna go door to door in my neighborhood.
If you want, I have the language. It's sitting in my computer. I'm just kind of waiting for people like you to help me out with it. So please sign my sign in. And my caucus, it's all about actually, you know, bringing people together to address areas where, you know, I think UP is not focusing on. And so, and as far as, well, I think I kind of addressed both. And I think, well, what's your question?
It's not actually a question, it's just a comment. I mean, I like a lot of what you're saying,
Mhm.
and where your head is at. I just think coming off of a strike, we're gonna have a hard time, like, I don't think going on a strike is gonna be a solution moving forward at this point, considering we just came off of one. But I do like what you're thinking and what you're focusing on. So I just wanted to say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, another strike right away, I mean, that takes a lot of work to gear up for that. I think people
I
would
don't
be
think
willing.
financially people are, I mean, I'll speak for myself, I wouldn't be, but I don't know what the solution is to get the things we want at this point. But I do agree with a lot of the things you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think really bringing our communities together, going, knocking on doors, talking to people, holding forums, public education forums, finding out what people want out of our schools, right? It's been proven if you go around and you talk to people in other cities, they've done this, they've stopped the charter threat just by addressing the academic needs of the communities, and they start to come back to the schools. But if we put so much resources into these political campaigns, we spend millions of dollars trying to get, school board members elected, and then we don't have the resources to go out and really connect with folks.
Yeah, that's a big, that is a big thing. The endorsement of Bernie instead of putting the energy somewhere else was a big thing. People still feel that problem, whether or not you like Bernie and you would vote for him or not, the question is, should the union be putting all that effort into it? And when I was in the Valley, I worked with David Feldman, there were people who were saying, well, we were putting too much into, whether you agree with it or not, I'm just saying, to these other political things such as Black Lives Matter, we also gave money to that. Some people disagreed with that. Some people did. And then, so I'm just saying, we have to, we look to the union leaders for direction in that. And personally, I would like to see a change in the union leadership, because I feel like it's getting to be status quo, even though Alex is a good person, so.
And thank you. The reserve, the $2 billion reserve that we were on strike about, it's still there. It's actually growing. So getting the district to actually spend that money, that's a big
You
thing.
can't get,
If you could sign in, if you're interested at all in staying in touch with me, I'd appreciate you signing in. And thank you for coming.
If they wanted to start a nursing program to
Yeah,
get
I know,
nurses,
I was actually,
train nurses at the
I know,
site.